at center. When it comes to the Lions, we know Dan Campbell always good for a quote and soundbite in regards to their schedule, which is daunting. It's awesome, man. We should be scarred up and ready to go, hardened for the battle and ready for the playoffs. 8 of Detroit's 9 road games come against teams that finished above 500 last season. All right, so we have our eye on the Lions, and we have Kyle Long and Bryant McFadden to break things down. And boy, this was a team, guys, that yes, they had the 1 seed and the bye, but they were absolutely decimated by injury. So hopefully they can stay healthy for this 25 campaign. Kyle, I'm going to give you first word. You and I were together with Mike Renner when we previewed the NFC North, and we asked you to break down the schedule, which we have up here. And it's tough because I referenced that schedule. It's not kind to the Lions or the NFC North for that matter here, but you have them at 10-7 this year. Explain it.
Well, I still think that this Detroit Lions football team has a roster that can get the double-digit wins. A lot will weigh on how recovered that defense is from injury. And, you know, we were just talking out of the break about Frank Ragnow. So obviously a big hole there at the center position. He did it the right way for a long time in Detroit. But yeah, I have the utmost in confidence in Dan Campbell and his culture. I think they'll get to 10 wins.
B-Mac, when you take a look at this, are you in agreement with Kyle? And do you also believe that the Lions are still the team to beat in the conference, or rather in the division?
Yeah, I agree. I can see double-digit wins for the Detroit Lions because that's still a talented roster on both sides of the football. And when you look at the experience that they've gained over the last few successful seasons, I think that could play a part in them being the lead dog in their division. But if they're going to get to 10 wins, they're going to earn it. Just look at how they start the season. The first 7-game stretch before their bye. You have Green Bay, Chicago, Baltimore, Cincy, Kansas City, Tampa. Outside of Cleveland, it could be a 50-50 toss-up on who would be the dog or the underdog. You're playing against Jordan Love, Caleb Williams with Ben Johnson, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, and Baker Mayfield. Those are the quarterbacks they will have to face off against in their first 7 games of the season. That could be a very, very difficult stretch, especially if there's some hurdles in the midst of those games that can prevent them from being in the winning column more so than not. So it's going to be a difficult stretch. They've been overly successful. So clearly when you look at the competition that they will see, if they get to double-digit wins, you better believe they earned it. They earned it.
Yep, and they're also going to be featured prominently in prime time, highlighted there by the schedule, of course. We did briefly flash the sort of evolution of Dan Campbell going from a team that was losing to a team that was 15-2 last year. And I only bring that up because he's now lost his coordinators because of how successful they've been. Kyle, I'm going to give you the offense. John Morton coming over from Sean Payton in Denver here, but he does have some Detroit ties, of course, taking over for Ben Johnson. What's this offense going to look like?
Well, hey, look, it's no secret this football team still wants to run the ball a lot early and often. But I think one thing that we'll see with Coach Morton is his receiver coach background is going to be the involvement in quick game for this offense a lot. Obviously, if you watch the Detroit Lions, you know they run the football. They like to go heavy play action, which is a time-consuming affair. And, you know, guys who cover, they got to cover for longer. Well, now I think you're going to see an extension of the run game become that quick game. For Jared Goff and his receivers, it's going to be about getting on the same page. Talked about Ragnow earlier. Who's going to step in at the center position? Could it be Tate Ratledge out of Georgia? He's got a mullet. He runs a 40 really fast. Let's see if he can play some center. But this team will get better as time goes, offensively and defensively with the injuries.
And we've seen their ranks last year, top 5 in every major category, number 1 in many of them. B-Mac, how does this defense now look with Kelvin Shepard there with Aaron Glenn no longer there?
Well, when you look at Kelvin Shepard throughout his professional coaching career, he's been a part of the Detroit Lions going back since 2021. So he understands the mindset, the mantra there. I'm more intrigued to see what personal nuances will he add, because clearly being under Coach Aaron Glenn throughout his time in Detroit, the playbook will look a lot like what Aaron Glenn ran. But what made Aaron Glenn so successful in Detroit was the timely manner that he decided to bring pressure, situational moments, 3rd and long, red zone moments. Not to mention, with that said pressure, he dialed up a lot of man-to-man opportunities in the secondary. So when will Kelvin Shepard go ahead and just release the hounds, to say the least, in terms of being ultra aggressive and putting his guys in the secondary and man-to-man situations, because that really helped their defense, especially when they lost Aiden Hutchinson midway through the season, and they had to bring extra hats into the blitz concept to put the pressure that they need to put on those opposing quarterbacks. So I think that is the more, intriguing thing for me, because the base, I think, would be similar to what we've seen in years past under Aaron Glenn. But will he be as aggressive as Aaron Glenn was when he was the DC for the Lions?
If we get to biggest offseason question, Kyle, that's something that actually BMAC had just touched upon here, is Aiden Hutchinson, who was having a fantastic season. Again, one of the guys that ended up getting hurt for this Lions team last year.
Yeah, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson is that spark plug. You look around the league, all the great teams, they've got a guy who can win, okay? You got a guy who can win against one-on-ones. You got a guy who can beat double teams. Aiden Hutchinson was starting to hit his stride as a rusher, obviously freakish numbers, and then the injury even more freakish. So seeing him come back will be good. I love the points that BMAC made about Kelvin Shepherd. How's he going to utilize the pressure? Because another guy, Aleem McNeil, going to be coming back from injury as well. So that entire front is going to be in jeopardy. There's a question mark about their ability to recover right now. They're going to have to manufacture some pressure in the right times.
BMAC, when it comes to question marks for you, we had timely to talk about Frank Ragnow. What do you think happens in Detroit here?
Well, I think they're going to figure this out right now in terms of the timing of his announcement. And it's actually perfect timing for the Detroit Lions, because they're getting ready to get in the midst of their offseason regimen as they get ready for training camp. But the issue for them with Frank not being in the lineup anymore, yes, he's dealt with a lot of injuries, but the relationship that he had with the quarterback, Kyle, you know this better than most, that center-quarterback relationship is basically like a catcher-pitcher relationship in baseball. They go hand in hand. And when you talk about the communication and just his individual skill set that he provided to the entire offensive line, you know, we've raved about the continuity and how good their offensive line has been over the last few years. Well, a lot of that had to come from his production at the center position, because he is the play caller for the offensive line. So unfortunately, he's stepping away, and he has to do what's best for him and his family. And for the Detroit Lions, I feel like if you were to receive this information, you would rather receive it in the early months of June than late July or early August, when you're closer to the season.
You know, BMAC, when I listen to you talk about the pitcher-catcher relationship, quarterback-center relationship, you really hit the nail on the head there. These guys spend so much time with one another, really intimate time. One guy's got his hand, you know, up under his butt and business all day. You're going to have a new guy there without Frank Ragnow, and it's nice to have a ball of clay in Tate Ratledge, a guy that you can start to form and figure out exactly how you want him to be as a center, to tailor-made it for Jared Goff as the quarterback. So they've got a rookie. That's the silver lining here with Frank Ragnow getting out of the building.
Guys, if I can just follow up on that, we were just talking about that off air before we came on, just sort of obviously the timing of it and the decisions that go into it, because obviously both of you guys at one point in time decided to call it a career. Kyle, I'll give you first word, some of those thoughts and discussions about prioritizing when you're arguably at the height of your career.
Well, obviously, every player goes through what we like to call putting out a fire every once in a while physically, and eventually there's so many fires burning in your body all over the place that you're going to run out of firefighters, and you got to just watch the thing burn. That's when you got to just come on home, pack your bags up and come on home. And for a guy like Frank, you know, there's three things that are important to him: family, football, and fishing. So he gets to do two of those things a lot more often than he does the former.
Yeah, and to your point, when you look at how successful Frank has been, he's dealt with a lot of injuries, and he's played through a lot of those said injuries. So for him just to try to dissect and recalibrate his mental and the physical, can he do it again? I think he figured out that he doesn't have the firefighters that's needed to put out that said fire that he's been dealing with over the last few seasons, even though he's been ultra successful. And the thing that we also have to remember, when you play the offensive line position, it's not like playing in the secondary. You will receive contact every play, regardless if it's a pass or a run. A grown man who is probably 290 plus will be running into you full strength, full speed. And that is a tall task to go through for a 17-week season from start to finish. And, oh, by the way, offensive linemen, last time I checked, Kyle, they don't go in and out. They don't substitute themselves like wide receivers and running backs. They're in for every play, and that's a lot to deal with mentally and physically.
B-Mac, let me throw it back at you in terms of some of the additions. You've got a veteran and a rookie you want to target here when it comes to the Lions.
Yeah, and we're talking about Frank Ragnow, making the news that he is stepping away from the game. Tate Ratledge, I think he's one of the bigger additions for me, especially hearing the news today. And I kind of started to think about this. I wonder, was Brad Holmes kind of contemplating, understanding that this could become a reality with Frank Ragnow stepping away, and they wanted to have a great plan, succession plan in place. And guess what? It's Tate. Now, the unique thing about Tate Ratledge, he played guard at UGA. Overly successful, Kyle. You talked about his great mullet. I would love to see you grow a mullet, by the way, too, Kyle. I think that would be a great look for you.
That'd be a skullet, B-Mac. That'd be a skullet. That would be a skullet.
That would be a new thing. A skullet would definitely be a new thing. But the thing about Tate, he has the versatility because he's been taking first-team center reps with Detroit since they started OTA. So it's almost like they drafted him knowing that he played guard at UGA. But I think their mindset was put in moving him to center. Even if Ragnow played this season, you want to have a succession plan in place whenever he decided to call it quits. Well, he called it quits today, and guess what? It's looking like Tate will get the first opportunity to be that center to replace the All-Pro. And then secondly, for me, defensively, DJ Reed, you lost Carlton Davis, who was the CB1 a year ago. You look at Terrion Arnold. He showed flashes, but I'm not quite ready to say he's ready to grab hold to that CB1 title for their defense. So bringing in a veteran presence that has played a lot of big-time football is a necessity, especially when you're in the division where you see Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison twice, DJ Moore, Roma Duze twice, along with the pass catcher that the Green Bay Packers have. You want to make sure you have a reliable veteran presence in the secondary at the cornerback position that can help mentor and groom Terrion Arnold as he continues to flourish for their defensive backfield as well.
That's an eye on the Detroit Lions. Our thanks to Brian McFadden and Kyle Long. Jen, certainly appreciate it. Well, Kyle said 10 wins for this Lions team. And I got to tell you what, Sportsline projections in line with our O-linemen. 10.3 wins with a 33% chance to win the division, but still a 71% chance, and better at that, to still make the playoffs.